Exposed. How my son-in-law's betrayal in a burning cabin led to an amazing 5 billion revelation. In the small town of Maplewood, a place where everyone knew each other, Bob's hands told the story of hard work. They were rough, calloused, and often stained with oil from countless hours spent in his family's repair shop. Together with his devoted wife Karen, they had built a life centered on community values and family dreams. Their bright daughter, Emily, looked to them with wide eyes, filled with ambition and hope. The modest shop was more than just a business. It was the heart of their American dream, pulsing with every wrench turn and tire fix. But that winter evening, the air thickened with dread as flames danced around the old family cabin. Memories of laughter, warmth, and holiday dinners turned to ash. Bob stood frozen, the acrid smell of smoke curling around his throat, disbelief clawing at his chest. As he watched the inferno devour everything they held dear, his heart shattered. They had poured years of their life into creating a sanctuary, and now, it felt like the world had turned its back on them. Tears stung his eyes as Karen clutched Emily close. Their family ripped apart by loss. In the aftermath, Bob faced the ruins with a heavy heart. As he carefully sifted through the devastation, a weathered document caught his eye. He unfolded it, and his hands trembled. It hummed with history stories of their town echoing through its pages. And if the rumors were true, it could change everything. Worth 5 billion. His heart raced, an unexpected flicker of hope igniting amidst the devastation. But that hope quickly turned bitter when he remembered Jake, Emily's husband, who seemed too eager to capitalize on Bob's misfortunes. Bob's loyalty was betrayed. Jake, the charming golden boy, had thrived on privilege. Unbeknownst to Bob, the glint of opportunism shone behind Jake's smile. As anger bubbled within, Bob felt deeper wounds forming. This wasn't about money. It was about family, trust, and the values that had guided him through life. His heart ached as he recalled welcoming Jake with open arms, only to feel that betrayal sliced through their family like a knife. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Bob found himself at the center of a whirlwind, with the entire community rallying behind him. The locals who shared his values were appalled by Jake's behavior. The diner buzzed with hushed conversations, passions igniting as townsfolk stood shoulder to shoulder with Bob, their unity a testament to shared struggles. How could integrity withstand the relentless push of greed? With every step, Bob forged ahead, leading his community in a fight for justice, not just for his family, but for the soul of Maplewood itself. Standing alone against the shadow of betrayal, he was determined to reclaim what was lost, and yet the question loomed. Could he forgive the very man who had shattered their family? As the sun sank behind the smoky remains, casting a somber glow, Bob wrestled with doubt. Just when it seemed hope might triumph, an unexpected revelation about Jake's intentions left him paralyzed, caught in a web of deceit. The essence of Bob's life teetered on the edge. What would the future hold for him, his family, and a community bound by resilience? The days dragged on for Bob, filled with a mix of sorrow and a newfound determination. Maplewood had turned into a battlefield. The community meetings at the town hall were packed, everyone eager to lend their support. Bob stood at the front, his voice quaking yet steadier each time he spoke. His neighbors listened intently, their faces reflecting anger, empathy, and a fierce loyalty to one of their own. The warmth of their presence fueled him, a stark contrast to the cold reality he faced. One night, after a particularly emotional meeting, Emily approached Bob, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Dad, I don't even know where to start," she whispered, her voice barely a tremor. "Jake, I can't believe he would do this to us." "To you." Bob sighed, the weight of his daughter's pain settling on his shoulders. "I know, sweetheart. But we've built something great here. This community, they can help us rise again." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, trying to project strength he felt slipping away. "We'll figure this out together." As he turned to walk back to the car, the rustling of a newspaper caught his attention. The headline blared, "Local woman leads community to fight against greed." It featured a photo of Karen standing alongside other town members, rallying support. Bob felt a swell of pride. Karen was out there fighting for their dreams, advocating for the values they had cherished. He knew then that he wasn't alone in this battle. They were a team. Days turned into weeks, and the momentum against Jake and his shady tactics grew stronger. Bob received anonymous tips, some detailing Jake's suspicious activities, others revealing possible alliances with players far beyond their humble town. Each revelation felt like a blow, but it also deepened Bob's resolve to confront the man who had deceived them all. At the next town hall meeting, tension filled the room. Bob took a deep breath as he stepped up to the podium, determination lighting up his features. "We're not just here to fight for my family," he began, his voice gaining strength. "We're fighting for all of us. For trust, for integrity, and for the dream we all share. We will not let greed define us." Cheers erupted, washing over him and bringing the spark back into his spirit. But as the crowd roared, Bob's heart skipped a beat. From the back of the room, he spotted Jake leaning against the wall, arms crossed, a sardonic smile on his face. Their eyes met momentarily, and Bob's stomach churned. Could he face this man who had betrayed his family right there, in front of everyone? Later that evening, scorching questions swirled in Bob's mind. Did Jake truly have a plan for the 5 billion revelation? Or was it merely a scheme to take everything Bob had worked for? The thought haunted him. He couldn't shake the sense of foreboding. Jake's charm had twisted into a weapon, and Bob would have to be vigilant. As Bob lay in bed that night, buried beneath a heap of worries, he knew he was standing on the precipice of a decisive moment. The battle lines were drawn, but would he have the courage to confront Jake and uncover the truth behind his deceit? Or would fear stifle the hope that had ignited within him? The night grew silent, but Bob's heart raced, energized by a nightmarish clarity. Tomorrow would change everything, and he could either be a victor or a victim. Could this fight push him toward a future he never expected? The morning sun struggled to break through the heavy clouds hanging over Maplewood, mirroring the tension in Bob's chest. He could feel it pressing down on him, but he refused to succumb to despair. Today was the day he would confront Jake and demand answers. Emily sat at the kitchen table, picking at a piece of toast, her mind clearly miles away. "Dad, are you really sure about this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Bob met her anxious gaze. "I have to be, honey. We can't keep letting him control our lives." He placed a hand over hers, feeling the tremor in her fingers. "I'll be careful, I promise." With that, they set off toward the town hall. The air was heavy with anticipation, but it was also filled with the steady hum of determination. Neighbors greeted him, their encouraging smiles a balm for his frayed nerves. They were all in this together, he couldn't forget that. Once inside the packed hall, Bob's heart pounded. He watched as familiar faces filled the seats, everyone ready to voice their anger at Jake's betrayal. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Karen stepped up to the microphone first. "We've gathered today not just to talk about what's been done to our town." Her voice rang strong. "We're here to reclaim our home." The crowd erupted in applause, and Bob felt a rush of solidarity. But as the echoes of support faded, he saw Jake slip through the back door. His gut twisted again. Today he wouldn't run. Today, he would stand up for everything he believed in. Karen stepped down, and Bob could feel the eyes of the room shift toward him. With a deep breath, he walked up to the podium. "I want to address the lies that have been told. I want to clear the air about who we trust and what we stand for." A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. Then he saw Jake leaning against the wall again, arms crossed, that mocking smile plastered on his face. Bob locked eyes with him, refusing to look away. "Jake, why don't you come up here and tell everyone the truth?" His voice rang out, stronger than he felt. A ripple of surprise swept through the room. It was now or never. Jake stepped forward, a mix of casual and confrontational, with a smirk that sent Bob's blood simmering. "What truth is there to tell? People are always quick to cast stones when things don't go their way," he said smoothly, attempting to deflect the heat. Bob swallowed hard. "No, you're wrong. We're not casting stones. We're asking for accountability," he shouted, the passion surging through him. "You used our trust and our dreams to play your game." Gasps filled the air, and the tension thickened. Then Jake said something that nearly stopped Bob's heart. "It's easy to spin a story, Bob. But do you have proof? Because unless you do, you're just a man bitter about his losses." Silence enveloped the hall. Bob's mind raced. Was this the moment everything hinged on? His hands trembled slightly, but he couldn't let that show. He felt the weight of each gaze, a collective hope wrapped as tightly as his own inner turmoil. Then the thought struck him: the anonymous tips, the information he had started collecting. There was evidence. As he opened his mouth to respond, he realized that with every word from Jake, there would only be more fire igniting within him. "Maybe I don't need to prove anything to you," Bob began slowly, "but I need to prove it to our community." With a deep breath, he continued with fervor, "We'll fight for what's right. And if you think you can scare us into silence, you're only fueling our fire." Stunned faces turned towards him, the chatter of uncertainty rising around like a low rumble. Would they really rally behind him? Bob felt the edges of his resolve harden. The gears were moving. But just as he felt the stirring of hope take root within him, Jake's grin widened maliciously. "You think you can stir the pot, Bob? Just wait. The truth will come knocking." What truth did he mean? Unease gripped Bob again, and he clenched his fists, determined not to show weakness. Was Jake hiding something deeper, something that could tear their community apart even more? "Well, let it come," Bob shouted, the heat in his voice igniting the crowd's energy. "We'll be ready." As the meeting raged on, whispers of disbelief turned to shouts of agreement. Bob felt a pulse of unity, a growing force that elevated his spirit. But that gnawing worry clung to him. What would Jake do next? What was he hiding? He knew the fight was far from over, and it was only the growing storm before the battle truly began. As the meeting adjourned, Bob felt a sense of exhilaration intertwined with dread. The community had rallied, yes, but they were still at war. How far would Jake go to protect his interests? Bob would have to dig deeper to uncover the truth. And as he walked from the hall, the sun began to peek through the clouds, illuminating a path ahead. Would he find the answers before it was too late? The small crowd began to disperse, a buzz of conversation swirling through the hall. But Bob felt frozen in place, roots digging deeper into the worn floor. It was a moment of triumph. Yet the sense of impending doom loomed over him. He could still see Jake lingering by the back door, a shadow of uncertainty. There was no way Bob could let this go. Every moment he allowed Jake to fester unchallenged would worsen the pain. "Dad, are you okay?" Emily's soft voice broke through his thoughts. He turned to see her standing with concern etched across her face, her fingers clasped together anxiously. "I will be. Just thinking," he replied, forcing a smile even as his heart raced. "But I need to know what Jake has cooking. I can feel it in my bones, Em. Do you want me to help? I can dig around, ask some of my friends at school," she offered, her eyes lighting up with determination. But Bob shook his head. "No. This is something I have to handle. I can't put you at risk," he insisted, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. He could see the disappointment flicker in her eyes, a mirror to his own feelings. But he needed to shield her from the storm ahead. He stepped outside, the cool air washing over him. He glanced up at the sky where the clouds had started parting, thin threads of blue shining through. It felt symbolical, like hope trying to weave its way into the darkness. As he walked, he gathered his thoughts. He needed evidence. Information. Something more concrete than just the whispers and accusations. The best place to start? The old community center. Before it had been sold to unknown buyers, it had been a hub for town meetings, and the starting point of many projects. Bob remembered Jake had a strong connection with the buyers. Perhaps there were documents, contracts, anything that could shine a light on Jake's intentions. The community center stood untouched, a relic of what once was. As he pushed through the heavy door, the scent of dust and stale air greeted him. Memories flooded back, laughter, gatherings, the community spirit that had once thrived here. Bob moved cautiously, navigating around the broken tables and scattered chairs. He made his way to the old office that had been left behind, its door slightly ajar. Each step echoed around him, amplifying his heartbeat in the silence. Inside, peeling papers lay strewn across the desk, the remnants of a forgotten history. He began sifting through the clutter, desperate to uncover something useful. Then beneath a stack of faded flyers he saw a folder. His heart raced as he opened it, revealing contracts and receipts tied to the sale of the center, signed by none other than Jake himself. A cold dread settled as he read the words, deceptive clauses hidden amongst legal jargon, the undertones of betrayal woven throughout. Suddenly, the door creaked behind him. Bob's heart thudded violently in his chest. He turned quickly, half expecting to see Jake's menacing presence. Instead, it was just a young man looking for solace in the ruins of their past. Sorry, the man stuttered. I didn't think anyone else would be here. No, it's okay. Just digging into old memories. Bob forced a smile, quickly hiding the folder behind his back. The weight of what he found already bore down on him. The young man nodded, fidgeting as he looked around. This place used to mean a lot to us. I miss it. His voice was a quiet echo of Bob's own feelings. Bob took a steadying breath, realizing then it wasn't just him fighting for the community. Others yearned for the connection that was slowly being stripped away. Their collective hope needed to reignite the fire that Jake was attempting to extinguish. Yes, it's worth fighting for, Bob said, feeling a surge of solidarity. We can't let it vanish. Are you planning something? The young man asked, a spark in his eyes. Yes, Bob replied, determination flooding through him again. And I think I need your help. As they talked, the sun began to dip lower, casting an orange glow through the dusty windows. Bob made a silent vow that no matter how deep the deception, he would uncover the truth, not just for himself, but for everyone. But as he felt hope bloom again, the nagging thought of Jake's last words echoed in his mind, the truth will come knocking. What did that really mean? Bob knew the battle was just beginning. He could feel the intensity rise, swirling around him like a storm he had to face head-on. The moment of reckoning was coming, and he had to prepare for whatever Jake had waiting. As they crafted a plan, a chill crept down Bob's spine. This journey was leading into darkness. Would they be ready to face it together? The weight of the folder pressed down on Bob's mind. Yet it was the flicker of determination in the young man's eyes that ignited a flame inside him. They exchanged ideas, flipping through the pages of what remained, feeling like detectives in a forgotten case. Do you think more people would join us? The young man asked, a hint of hope threading through his voice. Bob nodded, letting the thought settle in his heart. I believe so. If we could just show them what Jake is up to, bring the truth into the light. As they formulated a plan, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows through the cracked windows, whispering promises of a new beginning. The community center, with its worn wood and traces of laughter, had the potential to rise again if only they could rally the people to fight with them. Let us meet tomorrow. I'll spread the word. We need to gather everyone who cares about this place, Bob said, feeling a spark of excitement. Count me in, the young man said, his face bright. This town is worth it. It raised me after all. They exchanged numbers, sealing their commitment with a handshake. For a brief moment, Bob felt a powerful collective heartbeat. They were no longer alone. Together, they could take a stand. As he walked back to his car, the weight of the folder still heavy in his pocket, something indescribably different filled the air around him. Hope. The kind of hope that had felt elusive but now glimmered softly on the horizon. But just as he settled into the driver's seat, his phone buzzed like a live wire. Bob hesitated but then looked down, a chill running through him as he saw Jake's name flashing. With a deep breath he answered, bracing for confrontation. Hey Bob. I heard you've been snooping around. Jake's voice dripped with casual malice. You better back off before you dig yourself a real hole. The threat was unmistakable, raw and immediate. Bob's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, heart racing. I'm not afraid of you, Jake. Oh, but you should be, Jake laughed, a cold and hollow sound that echoed in Bob's mind long after he hung up. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just leads to ruin. The words replayed like a haunting melody. Bob felt the adrenaline crashing through him. It wasn't just a fight for a building, but for the heart of the community, for the lives intertwined within it. For Emily's hope, for the young man's belief, and for himself. He drove home, a storm brewing inside him. He needed to think fast. There had to be a way to outmaneuver Jake, before he struck first. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky a dark fabric stitched with stars. But this darkness didn't feel oppressive. It felt alive, a canvas for the possibilities to come. As Bob pulled into his driveway, a flicker of movement caught his eye. He looked up just in time to see a figure slipping into his backyard. Every nerve in his body tensed, inclined to act. Who was it? And what did they want? Bob's heart raced as he stepped out of the car, preparing himself for whatever might come next. The fight was just beginning, and he was determined to keep his loved ones safe even if it meant facing the storm head-on. Could this stranger be an ally, or was danger lurking closer than he thought? Bob took a cautious step forward, ready to confront whatever awaited him in the dark. Bob's footsteps crunched on the gravel as he made his way toward the shadowy figure, adrenaline surging in his veins. His mind raced with possibilities. Was this Jake's doing? Had he sent someone to intimidate him? Hey, who's there? Bob called, trying to keep his voice steady, even as uncertainty gnawed at him. There was no answer at first, just the rustling of leaves and the faint chirping of crickets. He squinted into the darkness, feeling his heartbeat thumping loudly in his ears. But then, the figure stepped into the light filtering from his porch. Bob. A familiar voice broke through the tension. Emily. Relief washed over him as he recognized his daughter's face. But what was she doing here so late? He rushed forward, still wary. What are you doing here? Yung kami totok. I thought it was important. She looked around nervously, her eyes darting back toward the shadows. I didn't want to call, just in case Jake was listening? Bob guessed. Her face pinched in concern, and the weight of the situation grew heavier. Yeah. She took a deep breath. I heard about your meeting tomorrow. I wanted to help. But Dad, you need to be careful. I've heard things. His stomach dropped. Derailing the fear for his own safety, he felt protective over Emily. You know about Jake? She nodded, glancing back toward the dark, as if expecting him to emerge. He has been asking questions. About you, about the center. Then that's all the more reason we can't back down, Bob said. We're fighting for this community. Emily stepped closer, her brows furrowed with worry. I know. But Jake isn't just a bully. He is dangerous. We need to think this through. The urgency in her voice echoed the rising tide of unease within him. He wanted to assure her, to tell her everything would be okay. But as he studied her, he saw the tremor in her hands. What are you saying? I think he might be planning something, she said softly. I overheard him talking about using the town's fears against it. Sowing division. Bob's chest tightened. Was this what Jake meant by leading to ruin? Their community had already been through so much. If divided, they could easily crumble. We have to counter that. If we don't unite them with the truth, he'll win. He is not just playing games anymore, Dad. You know that. Feeling the gravity of her words, Bob's pulse quickened. Her eyes locked on his, searching for assurance that he would keep them safe. I can't let that happen, Em. But I could use your help, he replied. If you can spread the word about the meeting and the importance of coming together, it could make a difference. Emily hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks against the potential impact. Finally, she nodded, a determined glint in her eyes. I'll do it. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise. They both jumped as a sudden crack echoed from the trees at the perimeter of the yard. Bob instinctively reached for Emily, pulling her in close, protective instincts flaring. What was that? I don't know. She clutched his arm. Fear rooted them both to the ground. The moment stretched, taut as a string, before Bob exhaled and asked, We should go inside, Em. It's too risky out here. As they turned toward the house, the air felt heavy. They weren't safe yet, not with Jake lurking in the shadows. Do you think anyone else will come? Emily asked, glancing back. Hope and uncertainty danced on her face. I have to believe they will, Bob said resolutely. He led her toward the porch. It's the only way. But just as they reached the door, Bob's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen. Another message from Jake. This one read, You really don't want to know what I have planned next. Bob's heart sank. What did Jake have up his sleeve? As they slipped inside, anticipation gripped Bob. They were entering a storm, and he wasn't sure how much more they could take before it broke. But one thing was clear. They could not back down. The battle for their community was just beginning. And Bob wasn't he about to let Jake take away the hope they had built together? Yet, as he prepared to face what lay ahead, one thought nagged at him. If Jake really was this unpredictable, how far was he willing to go? And was it too late to stop him before things spiraled further out of control? Bob paced the living room, anxiety gnawing at him. The weight of Emily's concerns hung heavily in the air. He glanced at her sitting tense on the couch, hands clasped tightly together. The glow of the lamp illuminated her worried features, eyes wide, lips pressed together in a thin line. Dad, we need to devise a plan. This isn't just about the meeting anymore. The stakes are so much higher, she urged. Bob stopped. The shadows around them felt thicker somehow. I know, but I can't just sit back and wait for something to happen. We have to act. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. You said he's sowing division. What if we focus on bringing people together before Jake can create that chaos? Emily nodded slowly, but dread still lingered in her expression. We can try. But what if Jake uses our own efforts against us? Yes, clever, dangerous. The sincerity in her voice cut through him. Bob leaned down, looking directly into her eyes. I won't let anyone hurt you, Em. This community has always been about standing together. We can't let fear tear us apart. His heart raced as he picked up his phone again, feeling the weight of the unknown. Let us start by reaching out to the core group. The ones we know will back us up. As he dialed his closest allies, he glanced at Emily, who was busy typing on her own phone. Moments later, Bob ended the call, feeling a flicker of hope as a few confirmed they would attend the meeting. They could fight Jake, but they needed numbers. Who do you get? She asked between glances at her own notifications. Most said they'll come. We need to keep this positive. More voices means less chance for him to exploit fear, Bob said, feeling proud of the community spirit alive in the responses. But we need to prepare for what Jake might do next. Emily stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. What if he tries to ruin the meeting somehow? Or makes it seem like we're the aggressors? Bob swallowed hard. The thought sent chills down his spine. Then we stick to the truth. We remind everyone what we built together, the community is worth fighting for. Just then, a sudden noise outside startled them both, a thud, followed by a scraping sound. Their eyes flew to the window, the curtains swaying slightly. Did you hear that? Emily whispered, her face pale. Yeah. Stay back. Bob took a step toward the door, heart pounding. He felt an instinctual urge to shield her, to protect her from whatever threat lurked in the dark. The front porch creaked as he opened the door slowly. The night air was thick, charged with tension. A figure darted just beyond the trees. He barely caught a glimpse. Bob's mind raced. Could it be Jake? Dad. What if it's him? Emily's voice trembled. He held a hand up to silence her, peering out into the shadows. Just as he turned back, a bright light flooded the room. It was the headlights of a car. Relief washed over him, but it was short-lived as the figure stepped fully into view. Bob. It was Mike, one of his oldest friends. Bob was taken aback, grateful yet surprised to see him here. I came as soon as I heard. We need to talk. This is more serious than we thought. Mike. What's going on? Bob asked, pulling Emily closer. I overheard something. Jake is planning something big, and it's not just about the meeting. It involves the land and more. Bob felt the ground slip beneath him. What do you mean? As Mike took a breath, ready to explain, an ominous feeling settled in the room. What would Jake do next, and how could they prepare? Just tell me, Mike, Bob urged, fears mounting as he sensed their clock ticking down. What does he want? Something dark loomed. He could feel it. And as he awaited Mike's words, he realized they were deep in a game that had no rules, with a foe who would use any weapon at his disposal. Would they be ready for what was coming? Or was it too late? Mike's expression darkened as he opened his mouth to speak. The silence in the room felt heavy, like a thick fog pressing down around them. Jake's not just after power at the meeting. He's planning to seize the land, our land. There's been talk of a real estate deal that could change everything. If he gets the upper hand at the meeting, all of this will fall apart. Bob's heart raced, a mix of anger and fear swirling inside him. He can't just take it. This land, it's everything to us. It has our history, our memories. He glanced at Emily, her face paling at the realization. We can't let him do this. Emily stepped forward, clenching her fists. But how do we stop him? He has the resources and the support. Her voice faltered, uncertainty creeping in. Mike interrupted. We need a strategy. We can't just go in blind. The community meeting is our chance to rally support, but we need to be prepared for Jake's counterattack. He drew in a deep breath, the weight of the situation visible on his face. We need to gather evidence, find out what Jake has planned. If we expose him before he makes his next move, we can turn the tide. Expose him? Bob echoed, considering the plan. But what about safety? If he catches wind of what we're doing, it could put us all at risk. Mike nodded, the tension lingering in the air. We take precautions, but we can't let fear guide us. If we're going to protect this community, we need to be bold. As they strategized, the mood in the room shifted gradually. The initial dread began to morph into a tentative resolve. Bob felt a spark ignite within him. He had faced challenges before, but this one was different. This fight was for everything he held dear. All right, he said, a new energy in his voice. Let us gather what we can. Emily, you check in with some of the neighbors. See what they know about Jake's plans. I'll talk to the farmers and try to get a better sense of how they feel about this. Emily nodded, determination settling into her features. We have to be smart about this. If we act strategically, we can leverage their fears and make them see the bigger picture. Just as they began to finalize their plans, Bob's phone buzzed sharply on the table. Its screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. A chill ran down his spine as he picked it up. What now? He murmured, but they all leaned in to read the message together. The words sent a shudder through him. I know what you're planning. Stop now, or you'll regret it. Bob's stomach dropped. It's Jake, he said, the fear slicing through the resolve they had just built. Yes, onto us. Emily swallowed hard, her eyes wide. What do we do? This isn't just a game anymore. No, Mike said, his voice steady. It's a fight for our lives and we can't back down now. As they processed this terrifying ultimatum, Bob felt the gravity of their circumstances weighing heavily on his shoulders. They were standing at the precipice of a battle. A fight that threatened to tear apart not just their community, but the very lives they cherished. He looked at Emily and Mike, seeing the determination in their eyes. They were in this together. But with Jake lurking in the shadows, what would be the next blow? The stakes had never been higher. Would they dare face him head-on? Or would fear keep them from fighting for what was rightfully theirs? The room felt different now. Darkness hung thicker than before, the weight of fear heavy on Bob's shoulders. The message from Jake flickered ominously in his mind. What could he do about it? He looked at Mike. We need to find out what he knows. He's not just going to sit back and watch us do this. Mike's gaze hardened. Then we'll have to be quicker. We need to work double time. There's no room for mistakes. Bob nodded, feeling the rush of adrenaline pulse through his veins. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about their entire community, the families, and the roots woven into the very soil they were fighting for. Tonight, Emily said, her voice steadying, let us organize a gathering at the old barn. It's a place people trust. If we can get the neighbors together, we can share what we know and rally them against Jake. Great idea, Bob said. But we have to be cautious. Jake has eyes everywhere. We can't let him catch wind of it. They exchanged plans, voices overlapping with hints of urgency. As they split to tackle their tasks, Bob felt a twinge of hope. The community could come together. But the message lingered at the back of his mind, gnawing at him. Later, he found himself walking down the familiar dirt road toward the barn. Each step felt heavier than the last. The sky was painted a dusky blue, stars just starting to peek through. His heart was racing, his thoughts tangled. Would Jake really retaliate? The barn was alive with chatter, families gathered, some leaning against the wooden beams, others sitting on weathered hay bales. The atmosphere buzzed with energy, children laughing and horses whinnying in the distance. As he stepped inside, the murmur quieted. All eyes turned toward him. A mixture of familiarity and fear filled the space. He cleared his throat. Thanks for coming, he began. I know things are tense, but we need to talk about Jake and what he is planning. The collective breaths hitched, the crowd leaning in closer. He recounted everything they'd learned, his voice firm, steady. He is trying to take our land. But if we band together, if we expose him. A woman at the front interjected, her voice trembling. What if he finds out? What will he do to us? A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Bob felt heat rise to his cheeks. I won't pretend it won't be dangerous. But if we let fear dictate our actions, we will lose everything. He spotted Emily in the back, her eyes shining with determination. She had spoken to many neighbors already, gathering their stories, their fears, their hopes. One of the elders, Mr. Cole, stepped forward. I've lived here longer than most. I've seen what happens when we allow someone to take control. We can't let him bully us out of our own home. The room erupted in murmurs, an undercurrent of anger rising. The momentum was building. Bob felt it, a surge of energy flowing through the crowd. Let us put this to a vote, another voice chimed in. Let us stand together for our land. As they debated, resolved to uncover Jake's plans, Bob felt a flicker of fear. Yet he held on to that energy, that hesitation turning into urgency. They could unearth Jake's schemes. They could prepare. As they discussed their next course of action, Bob's phone buzzed again, a notification lighting up the screen. He glanced at it, a new message from the same unknown number. He hesitated, then opened it. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Your time is running out. The room around him blurred as the implications settled in. The conversation faded into the background. Was there truly no turning back now? Should he share this latest threat with the gathering? Would it anchor their resolve, or would it scatter them in fear? Eyes wide and heart pounding, he realized they were at a crossroads. What would he choose to do next? Bob felt the weight of the world crashing down on him as he stood in the barn, surrounded by faces filled with hope and apprehension. Every heartbeat resonated with urgency. He cleared his throat, gathering courage for what he knew he had to say. Listen, he began, his voice breaking the thick silence. Jake isn't just a bully. He is a threat to everything we hold dear. If he succeeds, we lose not only our land but our community. It's time we stand together and expose him. A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd. Elderly Mr. Cole's deeply lined face reflected the hard-earned wisdom of struggles faced in years past. We fought for this land. We've built our lives here. What does he really think he is going to do? Bob nodded, grateful for the surge of support. We have evidence. We have each other. But we must act fast. If we cower in fear, we lose all that we've fought for. We need our voices to rise as one. Emily stepped forward, breathing fire into the atmosphere. My friends and I have heard whispers around town, and we won't let Jake sow discord without fighting back. We need to gather more evidence and prepare a united front for the meeting next week. No more playing small. As determination rippled through the crowd, Bob felt something shift within him too. The fear that had haunted him for weeks transformed into a shared resolve. They were ready to fight. All right, he said, a spark of inspiration igniting. Let us split into small groups, dig deeper, find connections. We'll uncover everything Jake's been hiding. We have the power to reclaim our narrative. We will not let him dictate our dreams. Nods and murmurs of agreement echoed back to him. The sense of community like a warm blanket wrapping everyone in strength. The fear began to ebb as they rallied behind their shared purpose. But as ideas flowed and plans were made, Bob's phone buzzed again. Glancing down, his heart raced at the sight of another message from Jake. You're digging your own grave, Bob. Don't say I didn't warn you. Unable to conceal it, he showed the message to the group. Whispers turned to gasps. Concern swept through the barn. We can't let him intimidate us, Emily urged, her voice steady. That's exactly what he wants, fear to paralyze us. We have to be stronger than that. Fueled by shared purpose, they began formulating plans for the meeting. Words of encouragement surged, filling the barn and glimmering like stars in the night. The barn that had once seemed tarnished with the pain of uncertainty stood as a beacon of hope. In that moment, hope illuminated their faces. The noise of unity swelled as Bob felt the collective heartbeat raise higher. Together, they stoked the flame of resilience. With laughter entwined in strength, plans started to take shape. As the meeting concluded, one last thing hung in the air, a pact. They would protect Maplewood, the foundation of their lives. They would rise against greed, and for the first time in a long while, A wave of anticipation washed over Bob. Days of preparation rolled into a blur, passion fueling their efforts. The community gathered every night, their determination growing as they unfolded the findings against Jake. They shared their stories, strengthening their bond. But Jake wasn't standing idle. He countered their plans with a sneer, spreading rumors to create chaos and mistrust. Bob felt the hairs on the back of his neck prickle, knowing the stakes were escalating, but he would not let that affect their momentum. Finally, the day of the meeting arrived. The town hall buzzed with neighbors standing shoulder to shoulder, the air electric with unison. Bob stepped to the front, his heart thrumming with adrenaline. Emily stood beside him, radiating strength. "Thank you all for being here today," Bob began, voice steady. "We're not just addressing Jake's greed. We're here to reclaim our home." Cheers erupted, a wave of support thrashing through him. But then from the corner, Jake rose, bravado shining in his eyes. He leaned against the wall, smirking as he scanned the crowd. "Bob, is this really the best you can do? Community spirit can stop a storm, but it'll never shake the foundation of true power." The crowd shifted uneasily, but Bob drew breath to confront the storm head-on. "Your power is built on lies, Jake. We have the truth on our side. We won't let fear dictate our dreams any longer." As voices clashed, Bob felt the energy shift. He was not alone. Together, they were mighty. "Stand with us. Let us show Maplewood's strength," Emily shouted. "We will not allow Jake to break us. We are family." A thunderous applause erupted, shaking the hall as people stood in solidarity. The tide turning, strength bubbling. Finally, the moment had come to present the evidence. They revealed the contracts and whispered truths, unearthing Jake's deceit one page at a time. It was an unveiling unlike any other, the truth sparking anger and empowering fury against the lie. And as Jake's smirk faltered and frustration flickered in his eyes, the realization took hold: their community was not just surviving, they were thriving. Together, they could rewrite their story. As the meeting reached its crescendo, a cathartic release washed over Bob. They had faced the challenge, exposed deceit, and rekindled their hope. And so, as the applause echoed around them, the undercurrent of victory swept through the hall, binding everyone tightly together. Maplewood had stood against fear, reclaiming their legacy. Bob glanced at Emily, tears of joy shimmering in their eyes, radiating a smile that said it all together. They had transformed. Then it hit him: the 5 billion revelation they'd uncovered was about more than just value. It was the irreplaceable worth of community, built upon trust, love, and resilience. As they drifted out into the evening light, a profound feeling washed over him. They were home. They were family. And nothing could ever break that bond. Now, as you celebrate this incredible journey with Bob and Emily, it's your turn to help our community grow. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our mission. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let us keep this conversation going. And please share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.